Vida Amor de Paz, and we're here with a new podcast of The Best Kept Secrets. And this time we have a special guest. His name is Kevin Kuhlow. And Kevin he has an exceptional story because it combines entrepreneurship, conservation, social impact, and innovation. It's young, and I want to allow my listeners to discover how one experience cleaning ocean, rivers, and coastlines led naturally to the next secret we are going to be highlighting. Welcome, Kevin, to the Best Kept Secret podcast.
Thank you, Vita. Appreciate you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I was really looking forward to having you because you are a legend already in Guatemala because you've done so much for our country. So I'm really proud of you.
No,
Really are.
thank you. It's an
So,
honor.
Kevin, you're still very young and you have already led projects that have made a remarkable environmental impact in the whole country of Guatemala. And I hope that this continues in other countries. So um, let's start with taking us back to the beginning. What first inspired your passion for protecting the environment, and how did your journey begin?
Sure. I would imagine it began back in 2015 when I started traveling internationally. I was living in the United States at the time, and I was taking advantage of my PTO traveling to other countries of the world, mainly in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Bali, Japan, countries in that area. And I noticed back then, especially after big events on the beach, there was no one picking up trash. And especially in countries like Thailand and Indonesia, the waste management system isn't where, compared to the US, it's very much different or non-existent. And I noticed that every time coming back to the US, I noticed how clean the US would be, and I travel back over to Southeast Asia and just noticed a big difference in comparison. And back in 2018 is when I sold everything I owned and moved down to Guatemala. And I lived in Puerto Barrios, which is on the Caribbean side of Guatemala. And I noticed the common theme of trash washing up on the Shawan coastlines.
Yeah.
And I
Sometimes we see
started,
that as a priority.
yes, and I
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
investigating where that trash was coming from. It's not some magic ship in the ocean dumping trash. Most of the ocean plastic pollution or trash is actually from rivers to streams inland,
Mhm.
especially in countries like Guatemala, where there's a lack of trash management and the conversation isn't really happening on how to solve that issue.
Mhm. Yeah. So, one of your major, I would say, major milestones was working for Four Oceans, right?
Yeah.
You know, to tell you the truth, my son, Andres, was the first one to tell me, why don't you get together, with Four Oceans? I didn't know that you were there. But anyway, I'm so glad that you showed up. And how did the opportunity come about? And what was involved in building the organization from ground up?
Great question. And it wasn't easy for Four Ocean to come to Guatemala. I before I even, brought Four Ocean into the conversation and living in Puerto Barrios at the time, I knew that something needed to happen. So I took the responsibility of fixing the problem or being part of the solution. So I planted little seeds in all the conversations I was having, whether it was with community leaders, leaders in the private sector. I was talking like Four Ocean was already made the decision and coming to Guatemala. I was not associated with Four Ocean at the time. But
No,
in the
really? Wow.
conversation, yeah, in conversation I was having, I was like, Four Ocean's coming. What do we need to do? It's one of those things where if you see it up here and believe it and have the courage enough to speak it, it will happen.
Yeah, but what
So,
was the mission of Four Oceans to begin with? What was the mission?
so the mission of Four Ocean to begin with, my mission of Four Ocean was to come to Guatemala to help out the issue in Guatemala. And
There.
yes, and so after the elections of 2019, the day after is when I decided to reach out to Four Ocean. I reached out to him on Facebook, on the Messenger. I was sitting in the hotel lobby of my wife's at the time in Puerto Barrios. I should have paid attention to the time when I sent the message, but I didn't. But I sent the message at 10 p.m. Eastern. And I looked down at my phone. I'm like, I probably should have picked a better time to reach out to him. Matter of minutes, Ford Ocean responded to me.
No
And we had a
kidding.
short
Wow.
little exchange. And I gave him my full name. I gave him my telephone number, told him about, the conversations I was already having. And the person on the other end sent the communication I had with her to a director of Four Ocean within the company. So that happened on a Monday. 2 days later, on a Wednesday, I was on the phone with him for over an hour and a half, telling my story, why I was an American living in Puerto Barrios, uh, and also what I was seeing there in Guatemala. He shared with me that they were already looking to expand operations in Honduras, and they already visited Honduras, but Guatemala wasn't on their radar. So they knew the issue of the Rio Motagua, where all the trash was flushing out into the ocean
Yeah,
and ending up on the
tell
surrounding
us a little
country.
bit about it because my viewers probably don't know. That it comes from the cities, all the
Right.
way to this river.
Right.
A
So
little
the
bit about
big,
it.
yep. So the big dump site in Guatemala City is in Zone 3. And there's a little river below it called Rio Las Vacas. And when the rainy season happens, a lot of the trash gets flushed out into the Rio Las Vacas. And the Rio Las Vacas meets the Rio Motagua. And the Rio Motagua winds its way through the country about 400 kilometers, over 100 municipalities, and ends up into the ocean. And the ocean washes it up onto the coastlines of Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, and it's a big issue. And
Yeah, it was
yeah,
such a
so
big issue that I think the Honduras wanted to sue Guatemala because of it.
exactly. So I was on the phone with him, and he already knew about the Rio Motagua at the time because he visited Honduras, and they did their own research, and the locals obviously told him about the Rio Motagua. So they were looking into Honduras, but Guatemala wasn't on their radar. And so I worked with him through email and phone conversations, through virtual meetings over the next month of July of 2019 to get Four Ocean to visit Guatemala. And they had a set of requirements for me to meet before they would even come visit. I thought it was going to be a lot easier since they went to Honduras, come to Guatemala and see it on their side. Well, they got to make sure that security is number one. They were operating in Bali and Haiti at the time. Haiti was a little civil unrest a lot, and not really secure for for ocean directors to come visit to a country like Haiti. So they had to get like a team of people, to travel within the country. In Guatemala, you don't need to, so that was checked off. Was there recycling capacity in Guatemala? And that was a great question because I didn't know. So lucky for us, one of my wife's cousins works for Reciclamos Haiti, which is a small company that picks up recyclables within the Guatemala City region
Mhm.
from homes and businesses. So they collect all the recyclables and they make sure it's disposed of responsibly. So I met with Kike Godoy, and so I was working with him, learning about the recycling capacity in Guatemala. And there were some other other items that we had to meet for them to come visit. So I worked on that during the July of 2019, and thank God, they liked all the information I sent back to them, and they came to visit in August of 2019.
How many
So
people
they
came?
came to visit for
From,
3 days.
how many people came from Four Oceans?
What's that?
How many people from Four Oceans came to visit?
So only two
First time.
representatives came. Only two representatives came to Four Ocean. My wife and I picked them up in Guatemala City. We met with two recyclers, and then we drove from Guatemala City to Puerto Barrios, where we met with the local mayor and his team. And then we visited Rio Motagua and the impact areas of the Rio Motagua that was having on Guatemala. So we visited Punta Manabique and a little village called San Francisco del Mar, which is in the middle of the Rio Motagua, which borders Honduras and Punta Manabique. So San Francisco del Mar is right in the middle. So we were speaking with the locals there that were living in this problem, and they were telling us a story of the a lot of the locals for jobs, they're either fishermen or they work on farms, and they noticed the fish was depleting. The population of fish in the area was
Yeah,
depleting,
they were
and a
dying.
lot of it,
Mhm.
and a lot of it was because of plastic pollution, which the feed off of, and it kills the fish. So after 3 days of Four Ocean visiting, they left Guatemala, and I was like, perfect. We had a great visit, and I just wanted Four Ocean to come. Not necessarily working for an organization like Four Ocean. I just wanted them to come, and I wanted to help support that. After they left, they contacted me a week later and offered me the country manager and legal representative position of Four Ocean to get operations established in Guatemala. So working with the private sector of Guatemala was a lot faster than how they were setting up in Honduras. They were working with local government officials, and that takes a lot of time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So from the private sector, they offered me the position. I talked with my wife about it. I accepted, and then within 2 months, the local entity was already set up and bank account was open to begin
In
construction
four
for.
weeks, how about that? Yeah,
Yeah. So,
because they starting an environmental operation in a new country is not an easy task. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you found, and also operationally and personally? How many
sure.
members of your team were with you then when they said yes?
So it was only me,
Oh,
and
what?
then I helped, build out the land to handle all of the trash that we would bring back from our teams that we would have. But then the
Mhm.
pandemic happened.
Okay,
COVID
but what
happened.
about the technology? Tell me, what kind of technology did you use?
Sure.
Machines?
So
Oh,
right. So when we finally got up and running during the pandemic in 2020, we had the facility all set out. We didn't have much technology that we were working with. We were really relying on already the recyclers in Guatemala that could handle the trash and plastic that we were collecting. So Guatemala, and mainly in the city, is where all the big recyclers are located. But we were in Puerto Barrios at the time, so one of the biggest challenges was transportation, transporting
true.
all of that trash that we were collected to the recyclers to upcycle it to new materials. One of the ways that Four Ocean works is they're a for-profit. They're not a nonprofit. They're not an NGO. They're a for-profit. So the sales of their bracelets that are made from the plastic that we collect, this
Mhm.
this this string here, and then recycled glass. So the sale of these bracelets help fund more cleanups and expand operations to different countries.
Okay, who was
Also,
buying the bracelet? Was it just Guatemalans or all from all over the world?
all over the world, all over the world. Four Oceans is very famous on social media. That's how they started on TikTok, on Instagram, and Facebook. They have altogether, they have over 5 million followers. So a lot of the sales are from everywhere around the world. And also, they partner with local companies that want to offset their plastic footprint like you would with carbon footprint. So if you're a company that that you make over 40,000 pounds of plastic for packaging, you can offset that by having Four Ocean collect those pounds from the ocean. So it looks good on the paper, right? So you're plastic neutral in the end on the paper.
I
So
want my
that's how.
viewers, yeah, I want my viewers, will you just send me some pictures, of the machinery, whatever you were using?
Yeah, so at our facility in Puerto Barrios, we kept it very simple. So we had at the time we started operations was me and three locals. So we went on a boat every day and collected over 3,000 pounds of trash per day. So we we opened operations August 24th of 2020, exactly 1 year after their first visit to Guatemala. 1 year. Within 3 months, I had over 50 full-time employees. So we grew from 3 to 50 in a few months.
Hmm.
So we had over 30% women working for us. So we were really inclusive. And with that, also, like I said, we kept the operation very simple. We had boats going out, and we had three different other locations. Quetzalito, which is the last
Yeah.
village on the Rio Motagua, and then that San Francisco Del Mar village that I mentioned earlier when they visited. We had a team there. And then we used barges that they would collect during the week to pick up all the sacks of trash to bring it to Puerto Barrios. Where
Mhm.
our team in Puerto Barrios, we had a classification team where we sorted everything that we collected, from plastic, the color of plastic, the type of plastic, glass, shoes, sandals, you name it, we separated everything. And then
And
from,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
and then from there, we would compact. We would have two balers, two compactors that would compact, all the plastic that we sorted.
Mhm.
So it was more, so we could transport more to the recyclers in the city. So I'll go back to your first question. What was the biggest challenge? First was the
Yeah.
transportation, how to get it upcycled or recycled in Guatemala.
Mhm.
And then the other was, I'm American and I'm working with locals, Guatemalans. So at the time, I spoke very little English or Spanish, I mean, very little Spanish. So, and the culture difference,
Oh yeah.
in the Spanish language, there's no word for accountability. So I was teaching my employees showing up to work on time means, so let's say our day starts at 8. On time means 7:50. So you start work at 8. You don't come at 8. You know this,
Well, that's very Guatemalan, you know. We learn it with even at parties, social parties, they invite you at 8 o'clock at night. We show up at 9. You see what I mean? And it's
yeah,
normal, normal.
right. But I took it upon myself to teach them my culture, and also I'm learning from them as well. And we meshed very well, believe it or not. My employees were great. Of course, a few bad ones, but mostly amazing people to work with. Guatemalans, I've noticed that they're just looking for an opportunity. If you give them that opportunity, they work very hard. I'll
Hard
put my
workers. Oh,
hard
yes.
workers. I'll put
Mhm.
my team up against any four ocean team around the world, and I'm sure my team would win. They are
And I've
very
heard,
strong. And even the women were stronger than some men.
I
The
bet
women were
you.
amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And so
they
we
are.
only had two compactors, as far as technology for four ocean, we only had two compactors on our facility. Where the technology really comes into play is, making the plastic into these bracelets. And
Mhm.
lucky for four ocean and lucky for Guatemala to put Guatemala on the map, a lot of the plastic that we collected in Guatemala, we were able to make into these bracelets right here. So all the bracelets now are made from 100% ocean recovered plastic from Guatemala. So if you
Okay,
buy
and
a
so,
bracelet,
yeah,
so if
how
you buy a
much?
bracelet online, it's made from the plastic in Guatemala.
How much? How much? I want one.
So these are so these bracelets run around $20 and they come with a promise. So every bracelet sold comes with a promise of at least 5 pounds collected from the ocean that for ocean promises. So you buying this bracelet helps fund more cleanups around the globe with For Ocean.
Bravo, it's amazing, really.
Yeah,
I
it's
heard that
amazing.
you collected more, you removed more than 4 billion pounds of trash from rivers, coastlines, and the Atlantic Ocean, right?
Yeah, so we operated from 2020 until last year, and we collected over 4 million pounds of plastic and trash just from the Caribbean coastline of Guatemala.
Okay, so many people assume ocean cleanup simply mean collecting trash and throwing it away, but your approach is very different. Can you explain how every pound collected was recycled,
Sure.
upcycled, or responsibly processed so nothing ended up in a landfill?
Right, exactly. So it's much more than like you said, just picking up trash and then sending it off. 4Ocean has a lot of certifications that verify what they're doing is real. So it's not just my team going out, collecting the trash and bringing it back to our facility. We're documenting everything through photos, through paperwork to verify what we do that day happened. And if we don't follow a process, if some photos aren't uploaded or we forget to document the trash that we collect, 4Ocean cannot count those pounds. So yes, we collected over 4 million pounds, but in some days I operated with 4Ocean, we couldn't count the pounds, otherwise because of the cameras didn't work that day or the GoPros went dead or something like that. So we had to document everything. And then what really helped us, separate ourselves from other companies that are doing, activities like 4Ocean is our
Uh-huh.
classification process. We classified over 15 different categories. Plastic that was not degraded to plastic that was very degraded, different colors. Like I said in the beginning, we shorted everything like clothes, shoes, sandals, flip flops, different types of plastics, 7 different types of plastics, glass, aluminum. So we really had to like strict classification that we went through just so that our material could be recycled. And a lot of the material that we collected, like styrofoam, things that PVC, things that cannot be recycled, Guatemala has a cement company that has a waste to energy program. So our
Uh-huh.
non-recyclables went to them, where they use it for energy, and any waste left over they use to mix with cement. So they have their own zero waste program as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of our plastics that could be recycled, we made into bracelets, or the harder type of plastics were made into plastic lumber to build for building material.
What about Cervecería Centroamericana, Gallo? The beer company. They have a recycling also operation in Guatemala, big one. It's supposed to be one of the largest in Central America. Did you ever talk to them?
No, well, they really don't produce a lot of plastic in their packaging, so the opportunity to partner with them wasn't feasible. But yeah, I mean they're a great brand to copy off of because all their glass bottles are reused or recycled in their production.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they're a good company that is setting a great example in Guatemala.
Okay, and are plastics themselves a problem? Or is it the way society manages waste? Because plastic has been there, and sometimes you see countries that do not have that problem. So what is a problem?
It's like I said in the beginning, it's just the lack of trash management or the leaders that are not talking about the problem. Like you said earlier, you said Honduras put a fine on Guatemala, and that
Mhm.
happened after we started operating shortly after in 2020. Guatemala or Four Ocean really put Guatemala on the map of the issue. So now a lot of the conversations are happening within the local leaders and also in the private sector. It takes both. It takes both public and private sector to fix a problem as big as a problem like Guatemala has with the trash issue. But the conversations are happening now, thanks to Four Ocean. Also, other organizations
Thanks
have
to you.
come to Guatemala
Yeah.
because of Four Ocean. So there's alliances that formed. Other organizations like Four Ocean have come to Guatemala to help solve the issue. So Four Ocean really put Guatemala on the map. My wife and I were pretty much the pioneers of a project like this in and around Central America. It really hasn't been done before. So having those conversations start is number one. Number two is having some political leaders that are aware of the issue, bringing policies in place. So there's some policies and laws that are trying to pass as far as classification of trash. They're trying to pass that law, and just being more environment focused. Guatemala is such a small country, so having an issue this big really affects, and you see the issue really fast. It's not like the U.S. It's a huge country, but Guatemala is very small, and lucky
The
for
size of
us,
Tennessee, Kevin. The size of Tennessee is Guatemala.
exactly. And lucky for us, those like I said, those conversations are happening now. The leaders are talking about it. Is it being solved as quickly as we would like? No, but the problem has existed over decades, so it's not going to be fixed tomorrow. So I think that's what we really need to, stress. Like it is happening, the conversations are happening, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, the Hondurans were very upset at us for some time, especially the owners of touristical places, that they were complaining, look,
Yeah.
they have this beautiful, amazing paradise here, but look at the trash.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, but I have another question. Eventually, you decided to move. beyond cleaning pollution and focus on preventing it through the circular economy. We're going to have to explain what the circular economy is and what the circular manufacturing is.
Sure.
How did you go
So
about this transition?
yeah, so during my time with Four Ocean, within the 4 million pounds that we collected, 500,000 pounds of shoes, sandals, and Crocs were collected, and over 150,000 pounds of textile waste was collected. My wife had an idea of a project that she wanted to bring to Guatemala, but with Four Ocean coming, it kind of got pushed aside. And it was bringing pineapple fiber to the textile industry. And how you do that is from the long leaf of the pineapple plant, you extract pineapple fiber from the plant. With our project, we took some principles from Four Ocean and applied it to our project. With social impact, we might hire mainly women. That's part of sustainability, having that social impact, as well as zero waste. So all the waste that we collect, we convert to natural fertilizer because right now, all the pineapple plants, before they plant new plants, all the producers spray a bunch of chemicals and burn everything. So we offer a service to go in before they plant new plants to take the plant, to get the fiber, and then all the waste
Oh,
we
show me
accumulate.
that. Show me
Yeah.
that. Wow, amazing. You're kidding. And that's from pineapples?
So it's from
Wow.
the long leaf, the long leaf.
Wow.
Yep. And then all the waste that we accumulate, we convert to natural fertilizer to give back to those growers to rejuvenate their soil because they've been burning it for so long. And so we take the fiber and then we make it into yarn.
Yarn. My goodness. Yeah.
It's mixed with cotton
Uh-huh.
and then into fabric.
So cotton? It
Into
kind of
fabric
converted it to
or
cotton
clothes.
and synthetic textiles, you think?
Yeah, so for clothing.
Right.
Yeah, so we partner with some local designers to make some garments for us, so we can showcase to brands, what you can do with our fabric. So Four Ocean really pushed this project forward. Standing in the amount of trash that I was in, I was on the coastlines almost every day of Guatemala, noticing not just plastic, like I said, with the shoes and sandals and textile waste. So we wanted to bring something more sustainable and 100% degradable to the textile industry because the real Las Bacas, where all the trash
Oh,
gets
well, you
flushed
got
down
banks to it. Yes.
from zone three,
Or,
in Chinalta, there's a bunch of textile waste. And what
yes.
happens is with those little pacas or little stores in Guatemala where they sell cheap clothes, a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
clothes are coming from different countries that were not sold
Mm-hmm.
or were bought cheaply and brought to Guatemala where they wear it one time and then throw it away. Same with the Crocs. You can buy them very cheap in Guatemala, and then once they break, they just throw them away into the trash. But there's no responsible way to dispose of it, and then it harms the environment. So especially with the polyester blends, polyester is plastic. So when you see an
Mm-hmm.
80% cotton, 20% polyester, you have plastic in your clothes, which doesn't degrade by itself.
So one aspect of your work that I find particularly meaningful is the social impact. You're creating local jobs and prioritizing women-led employment. My gosh, why has community development become such an important part of your mission? From where do you get your funding mainly for this?
Yeah. So, Guatemala, I would have to say thanks to Four Ocean. They really opened my eyes about sustainability, doing things the right way, hiring locals, creating jobs, giving them a fair opportunity. Like I said, Guatemalans just need an opportunity and they're one of the hardest working people I ever come across in all my
I agree
travel
with you. I agree
everywhere.
totally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we started our pineapple project, it's called Pina Cacao. Cacao is a Mayan word for change. So it goes very well with our project, Pina Cacao. So like I said, we took a lot of principles that I learned with Four Ocean to this project, not only with the environment impact that we're having, but the social impact. And it's very important because a lot of the communities in which we work, there's a lot of single women and they don't have the same opportunities as you would around a bigger city like Guatemala City. So we took it upon ourselves, give them, an opportunity uh, to create a fair living wage. That doesn't mean minimum wage. I said fair living wage. That means more. And what I've noticed living in Guatemala over the 8 years I've been here is, Guatemala is really receptive to foreign companies to establish businesses in Guatemala,
Yes.
but not necessarily push them to do things the right way. A lot of the companies come here for profit, profit, profit. And I understand that, because the labor is cheaper, but it's not, you don't always have to focus on profit. You can still do things the right way and still make a fair profit. So we wanted to, build our story of Pina Cacao on, working with small to medium sized pineapple producers, but also creating the jobs in the communities in which we work. So it's very important for us.
There's a phrase that you use a lot that has caught my attention. And it says something like the impact should be measured by results, not intentions. What does that philosophy mean to you?
Yeah. So I my motto every time I'm in a meeting, especially with leaders, is I let my actions speak for my words. Menos palabras, más acciones. And I let
Like,
my work speak for itself. And the impact that we're having, I know that it's speaking a lot louder than anything I can write down on paper. And, the attentions that I've noticed in the communities in which we work are there, but that doesn't necessarily mean the action is taking place. I
mhm.
noticed I wouldn't call it culture, but I noticed a lot of meetings that I've had, especially working with Four Ocean, with national leaders, not only in the community, but nationally as a whole, as
Yeah,
Guatemala is, they like to talk a lot,
yeah.
but
Wishful
they don't
thinking.
put those into action. They don't
Yeah.
put, they think talking about it is solving the problem. That's a
So
little
true.
part. That's just part of it. That's great you're talking about it, but let's put it into action. So
Yeah.
that's my philosophy behind that is
You are my hero.
talk less, act more.
You are my hero. I think you probably are the hero of many Guatemalans now. Listen, many young people want to make a difference, but don't know where to begin. What advice would you give them if they want to build a business that is both profitable and environmentally responsible?
Sure. Not everything's going to grow from a Facebook message like how I did with Four Ocean, but my advice would be, there are brands and there's are companies out there that would like to work in a country like Guatemala. And what I would recommend a lot of them doing is if you have an idea, start doing it. And then, it doesn't, it's not, there's no harm in the reaching out to companies or brands that you feel connected to push your idea forward. It just takes a message. If they say no, great. But if it's reaching out, that regret of not reaching out. So I would say, you know, if the attention is there, start doing it, and then grow on that. Start researching. Is there companies already out there doing what I do? Like I'm starting a project, not necessarily me, but the person in my shoes. Is there someone out there doing what is already being done, but could work in a country like Guatemala? Do research, start
Hmm.
doing it. It's one thing to have an idea in your head, but put it into action, I would
Yeah,
say.
in practice. Yeah, and which other countries do you think need your help? You want
So
to?
I'm mainly focused in Guatemala. Guatemala has my heart. I met my wife. I met my wife in Iowa uh,
uh,
in
where are you
2017.
from? Originally, where
In
are you from?
Iowa. In Iowa.
Iowa.
Yep. And I met my wife in Iowa in 2017. She happened to be visiting a sister of hers that lives in Iowa. Imagine that. So I met her, and she was telling me about Guatemala. She's going to move to Puerto Barrios from the city, and I was at a time of my life where I was already done with the U.S. I wanted to move to a different country, and the timing was perfect. So Guatemala gave me not only a new wife, but a beautiful wife, a new
And she's
life, and a
American, right?
beautiful wife. She's
She's
Guatemalan.
American.
She's
Oh, she's
Guatemalan.
Guatemalan.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
she's
now
Guatemalan.
you know Spanish
Yeah,
better.
yeah, of course. I know the culture. I love it. The Latina culture is amazing. So my heart's
Yeah.
in Guatemala. Is there other countries that need help? Obviously, but for me, I feel a debt of gratitude in my heart for Guatemala for what Guatemala has given me the last 8 years. So I am 100% Guatemala. Uh, doing all my work in Guatemala. So that's where I'll be for the rest of my life. Hopefully, is making impact like I'm doing with Pina Cacao, and also we created an NGO recently because my wife and I have our hands in a lot of different areas, and so we decided to build this NGO not only to hold us accountable, but to really expand our impact within Guatemala. And the NGO sector, especially in Guatemala, has gotten a black eye over the last few years of, not funds going to, the projects it needs to. Lucky for us, my wife and I have other streams of income, so we're not using NGO as another stream of income for us. All of the funds that we'll raise for projects like Pina Cacao, and also we're involved in a sustainable water project in a coastal community of Guatemala, bringing fresh water to a coastal community through a filtration system. So water to that community is no longer trucked in under a lot of sun, and that happens to have a lot of microplastics into it if it's under the sun a long time. So, bring fresh water to local coastal communities. The needs of the the basic needs of Guatemala shouldn't be a privilege. It should be
Mhm.
should
Yeah.
be given to these communities.
Yes.
And so we're
Yes.
really building a great foundation with this NGO. 100% of the funds raised goes to the projects that we're helping.
Fabulous. Fantastic. And so, how do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? Doing
So
what?
hopefully, yeah. So hopefully, Pina Cacao is partnered with a lot of brands such as Polo or Ralph Lauren or Tommy Hilfiger, or that'll be awesome having our blended yarn and the clothing that they make. But also, I hope to see in 5 to 10 years our impact in Guatemala growing more rapidly to communities that need it. A lot of funds that come to Guatemala, I've noticed, are centered in the same communities, Antigua, Guatemala City. There's other villages and there's other cities within Guatemala that need a lot of help. So I hope to see within the 5 to 7 years that our impact is increasing all across Guatemala.
Last message.
Last message is I'll take myself back to how I was traveling in 2015. I wasn't traveling to other countries in five-star hotels. So my message to anyone listening to this podcast is if you're traveling to different countries, to stay away from all-inclusive resorts, you know, travel to countries to experience culture, travel
The
to
real
countries,
people, the real
exactly.
locals.
Yep.
Yes, I agree
Travel to
with you.
countries to learn about that country because you
Hmm.
never know. Because the way I was traveling led to me here. Moving to Guatemala wasn't such as a culture shock as it would be if I wasn't traveling or staying in those all-inclusive resorts.
Yeah, what's
So
more? Yeah.
yeah, so that
Okay,
would be my message to anyone
agree.
listening is
Yeah,
that because you never know where it's going to lead you.
I approve. And this is my last message. When awakening the environmental consciousness on people, there is new hope for a clean planet.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita. I appreciate you.
Don't like what you're doing and say hello to your wife. I
I
hope to
will.
be one day.
Yes,
Okay,
for sure. Thank you.
bye.